Okay, welcome back to On the Ball, the podcast from the Vanderbilt Sports and Society Initiative. I'm Andrew Maraniss, and today I'm really excited to have three guests joining us. Nate Bell from here at Vanderbilt Athletics. Nate is Assistant Athletic Director for Student Services in the Ingram Center for Student Athlete Success. Then we've got Thomas Jones from the Vanderbilt football team from right here in Smyrna, Tennessee, and he is a double major in econ and kinesiology. And then we have Bailey Ratzburg from Janesville, Wisconsin. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. So we were just sharing a bit of Milwaukee Brewers talk before we got started here. She's on the swimming team here at Vandy and majoring in medicine, health, and society. So Nate, Thomas, Bailey, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right, Nate. So you guys, now it's been 2 months. We've been talking about scheduling this interview for a while, but had an opportunity to travel to Iceland as part of a trip that Vanderbilt Athletics put together. Not just the three of you, but a group of staff and faculty and student athletes, which I thought was a pretty incredible opportunity and just wanted to learn more about it. So Nate, I think people out there may be familiar with maybe the basketball team's going to go as a team to Europe and play against some other teams in France or Italy. We've seen that. What was different about this trip, bringing together athletes from multiple sports, and how did it come together?
Yeah, it's funny. It was probably about a year ago is when this all started, like the planning stages and whatnot. Because the Ingram Center is always very invested in the student athlete experience and wanting to provide opportunities outside of sport, even outside of the academic side of things. And so we've done trips in the past that have been maybe more service oriented. We've partnered with organizations like Souls for Souls. We've gone to places like Guatemala, Jamaica, Morocco, Costa Rica have been some places we've gone to. And those have all been really great experiences. And a few years ago, Vanderbilt created kind of a new graduation requirement through Immersion Vanderbilt on campus, where students kind of pursue some other type of experience or opportunity to complement their academic journey and their educational path. And so what I was thinking about when I was looking at this trip, I wanted to have this trip be a part of a student athletes immersion experience, immersion project, so they could complete that graduation component through the different steps that we create for this trip and this opportunity. So, and also I wanted to have a diverse group of student athletes from a variety of sports. We had 8 student athletes attend 6 different sports, which I thought was really cool. Bailey and Thomas might talk about this a little bit, but just they most of them didn't know each other that well before going on this trip, and I think they bonded quite well. And my partner on this trip was Dr. Jamie Bruce. She's a faculty member in the Medicine, Health, and Society department here at Vanderbilt. She's also a faculty fellow through the immersion office, so we had that connection. She's very involved in the immersion experience here too, and so it seemed like a great fit for her to have a partner in crime as we kind of created this experience. And in terms of places to go, I was thinking all over the place, and I wanted to be something that was intriguing for student athletes, a place that likely student athletes haven't been before. Just one where you can really immerse yourself in the culture and the geological elements. We had some sport elements we weaved in there. It wasn't certainly a competition type trip. We didn't compete like some of our other team trips. Those are focused on competition, but also sightseeing. We wanted this to be kind of as fully immersive as possible for the week that we were there. And I feel like we did a lot of really fun things. At least I'm a little bit biased as the one that kind of created the schedule, but I think it was a really great experience for all. So that's a little bit of the context around where it started. And it was about a year ago. I think we had our first meeting just to brainstorm places to go. And 1 year later, it's kind of crazy to see how it all came together.
Oh, that's awesome. And Thomas and Bailey, I got some questions for you. One more for Nate. When you mentioned this has helped fulfill the immersion requirement. You had Jamie Bruce from Immersion with you. Yeah. Did that mean that there were certain prerequisites to come on the trip or expectations of a project to be completed either on the trip or afterwards?
Yeah, so the Immersion Vanderbilt graduation requirement is kind of twofold. So there's an experience that you're doing, and then the second part is a culminating project. So everyone can kind of do a culminating project in whatever interest they have, but we want at least this to be the experience part of it. And we even had like we tried to partner across all of campus in a variety of ways. We had four separate I guess group meetings before the trip where we brought in um, global health and safety office to talk just about preparing us for going to a new country and maybe some cultural differences to get acquainted to before we go versus like you just experiencing this when you're stepping into the country, which may not be the greatest timing for some of those things. We had Dr. Brian Kissel from Peabody come over he zoomed in with our group. He's been to Iceland, so just kind of giving us an experience on that. And then Kate Devine came to talk with us. Kate was a former soccer player here at Vanderbilt, and she was a professional soccer player in Iceland for a year. And so she came and talked to our group just about the experiences that she had. And so we have these kind of lead up like learning sessions too, which also are important from an immersion standpoint, that there's some learning sessions. It's not just the trip. And then the culminating project standpoint is kind of where the students take it from here in terms of what they want to kind of create. And that can be wide ranging in terms of what they want to do and use this as the project element to complete that graduation.
All right. Okay, Thomas, coming to you. This is a trip that you leave in early May, so I guess you're just coming off of spring football practice. How did you hear about this trip, and why did you decide to go?
I was actually set to graduate in May, but I hadn't completed my culminating project. I was having some issues from a summer internship trying to get that to apply, and I was like, I might as well just do another semester. And Nate came to me and he was telling me about this opportunity and how it would fulfill the culminating project. And I figured it was a great opportunity. And I was a little bit worried about coming straight out of spring ball, like that being maybe in our only break. I was a little worried up until the trip about not having any free time, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I feel like it was a like perfect timing almost.
Yeah. Had you done any international traveling before? Like, what were your expectations of what Iceland would be like before you went on the trip, and how did it either meet those expectations or surprise you?
That was my first time out of the country, so I was trying to rush to get the passport and everything. I didn't know how all that stuff worked, but once the requirements to travel out of the country, once that was finished with, the stress kind of went away and it was more excitement for the trip. And then out of nowhere, I started getting a lot of stuff on my social media feeds about Iceland, and I was looking up food in Iceland and all that. I was really excited for the food, and the food was a little underwhelming because I was seeing all the touristy stuff online. Um, a lot of the videos I also saw, it was like very gloomy and dark. But when we were there, it was like that a little bit, but it was a lot. The weather was a lot more bipolar than I had expected it to be. It was more on and off, sunny, a little bit of drizzle, cloudy. It wasn't as cold as I expected it to be, but it was cold.
Okay. Bailey, how about you? How did you learn about this opportunity, and why was it something that you wanted to take advantage of?
I learned about this opportunity just kind of through Nate and just like some of the stuff they had sent out through just our student resources. I also had friends in Dr. Jamie Bruce's class, so it kind of like twofold. Kind of being an MHS student and a student athlete, it kind of like aligned perfectly. And I thought this would be like just with our season. Our season's from August to March, and it's a hard season to do a lot of traveling. And this is just like it kind of worked out perfectly, and that's kind of how I started getting involved in the trip. And I mean, Nate did a great job advertising and planning it of what he wanted, and I could just see the passion from both of him and Jamie's perspective, and it just kind of made me want to get involved and be excited for it.
Yeah. Has the swim team done any international trips since you've been on the team? Or I know you go maybe not internationally, but like have your training camp in different parts of the country. How did this trip differ maybe from some other trips you've been on in athletics?
Yeah, I've never traveled internationally with the swim team before. Just something, we have 30 girls, something kind of hard to do and travel with. But we've traveled around the country. We've gone from, California out in San Diego all the way down to all over in Florida just for our training trips. And I think it was cool to see just different sports being there. I think that that perspective and like talking with other people. And like one night we had sat over dinner talking about all these different things that were happening all over athletics that we had never known about. We were comparing our locker rooms and talking about different, schedules and things like that. I would never have known, with our team's very close, but we all follow the same schedule and kind of stay in the same circle. So it was kind of cool to see that and kind of different in that.
Thomas, how that aspect of the trip, I notice even just working here, oftentimes if I go eat lunch in Hendrick's room, the teams kind of stick together, and you hope as an older person, like I wish that, the student athletes would get to know each other from different sports a little bit more. How was that aspect of the trip for you? And has that been your experience as a member of the football team, that you really get to know the football players, but it's harder to get to know student athletes from other sports? How did this trip maybe change that opportunity for you?
It was actually a great opportunity for that, because I feel like we, especially from the different aspects of sports that we play, I feel like we never would have connected on the same level if we never went on this trip together. Like, even if we did sit in Hendricks and talk with each other, I feel like we wouldn't have as deep of a connection that we all established throughout the trip, especially being overseas where we all relate in one way. And it went from all we're Vanderbilt athletes to we have personal things that we all share with each other.
Have you stayed in touch with some of the people that you went on the trip with that you might not have been friends with otherwise?
Yes, I have. I know Aaliyah from the basketball team. She went. I had a class with her and Dr. Jamie Bruce, but last summer, and we had connected in that class, but we had never really talked after that. And then after the trip, we've continued to talk from there.
That's great. How about you, Bailey?
Yeah, I stay connected with a couple of the people, and we sit in weekly meetings together now. Like now we kind of connect. Me and I've never talked to Macy. She's on the golf team. Golf is on their own schedule compared to swim, and it's very different. And now weekly we sit together and we talk about our weeks. So it's kind of something a friendship I never would have expected.
Now, Nate, I know you worked really hard on the itinerary, which you shared. I saw, Thomas, the video that you put together for the university. You guys saw lava and horses and black sand beaches. Nate, in thinking about what you hoped the student athletes would experience on this trip versus how it actually panned out, like what were some of the highlights from just seeing the sights, seeing something that's completely different that we wouldn't see here? What were those highlights for you?
I mean, you have high expectations you put together, and I feel like from what I hoped for and expected, I feel like it met those expectations in terms of, we did so much in those 7 days and saw so many things. And just the geographical elements to it. Like, I just remember standing in one space and I was like, just looking at in one direction. It's like there are waterfalls cascading off the rocks, the mountains. There's to the right, there's black sand beaches. I'm looking left, and there are thermal hot pools, just smoke just radiating out of the ground. You've got lava caves over here, and this is just in one location. I'm not even moving and seeing all of this in one spot. So it's one of those places that I think is just unique. I'm not sure how many places in the world would be similar to Iceland, and I think it's just a special experience from that standpoint. We hiked the glacier. Like, one of the meaningful moments is just kind of standing on top of an ice glacier with this group and just like looking down. Like, this is just crazy that we're here, right? Like, it's just like very few people will have this opportunity ever, and I feel like we were stacking those once in a lifetime opportunities like from each day on, and each day was different in its own way, and it was. I don't know if there was one thing that was like, this is the greatest thing we did, but just like cumulatively looking at it. We also had some great opportunities for alumni connections, which was something I didn't think about when I created this trip. Like, oh, let's make sure we're maybe connecting with Vanderbilt, alums in Iceland. One, I didn't know how many Vanderbilt alums would exist in Iceland. We do have a handful, believe it or not, and reached out to a number of them. Two of them, former Vanderbilt soccer student athletes who just graduated this past December. Macy Teeter and Hannah McLaughlin are professional soccer players in Iceland, and in digging into it, all the stars kind of aligned, and they had a match in Reykjavik while we were there. And the playing at a stadium that was about 15-20 minute walk from our hotel. And so we took advantage of going to see them play, watch that match, kind of get to hang out with them at the end of the game, kind of have that kind of Vanderbilt connection between current Vanderbilt student athletes and them who are didn't graduate too long ago, but you could just tell it was meaningful to them just to see kind of like an aspect of an old life, or maybe not too old of a life, but one where they stayed connected. And Sydney Watts, one of their former teammates, is on the trip too, so that was kind of a natural connection. So it was just so great to see student athletes. We had football, swim, golf, volleyball, women's basketball, soccer, all on this trip, and it was a lot of fun to see them all interact and kind of me watch from the back as they were experiencing all these things too. And everyone experiences new opportunities in different ways, and it was just fun to watch each of these aspects that we were able to see and kind of how they interacted in that moment as well.
Thomas, Nate mentioned there were moments where he's like, I can't believe this is me, like experiencing this right now. Were there any moments like that for you where you're looking at something or experiencing something and thinking like, I can't believe that this is my life, that I'm experiencing this right at this moment?
Yeah, mine would be very similar to Nate's. The one that stood out to me the most was definitely it was this giant waterfall, and you could view it from the top, or you could go all the way to the bottom and view it from another angle. And it was kind of surreal, especially how close you could get. Because I feel like here you'd never be able to get that close to really nature in general, but especially historic sites like we were visiting. And it was just it was like breathtaking to me that everywhere we went, it was something like that. It was always some type of natural geographic kind of excursion that we were going on, that is all right next to each other. It was a 10-15 minute drive, and then we're at the next spot. Like the longest drive we had without seeing something was an hour. And even when you're driving, it's just scenic views the entire way. And it was very surreal to be in the moment.
It must have been surreal for those two alumni playing professional soccer in Iceland, all of a sudden have this cheering section from Vanderbilt. Also, what was the soccer game like for you? What did you feel like it meant to those two young women?
The soccer game was very interesting. It was really one of the first times I've been that close to a soccer match. You could hear everybody on the field communicating, and it was at the end of the game, whenever the alumni came up to us, it was very almost, you could see their excitement, and it kind of filled our excitement, because we were out there. It's cold. I know they're cold. They're in shorts and t-shirts, and it was just like almost a warmth that came over the crowd. And the fans were very energetic about their team. So that was also pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And they
All right, Bailey,
won too, which helped. They won the game.
Oh, they won. All right.
They did. They were the
as well.
Yeah, they were the opposing team. There was lots of yelling going on the whole game.
Oh, wow. Those home fans must have been like, how did these visitors get all these fans from the U.S.? What were the special moments for you from just a sights perspective, Bailey?
I think one of my favorite things were all the waterfalls we saw. I feel like so many waterfalls the whole week. Everywhere we went, there was like a new waterfall to go to, or a black sand beach, or these beautiful like cliffs. And I think that was like my favorite part, and like how they incorporated their nature into their architecture was really cool to kind of see and hear the history of. And like, I guess I didn't understand the history of Iceland, and we took a walking tour with a Viking. He kind of explained how everything's in these pillars, and it's like, and then you go out the next day and we go on a tour, and we'd be like, oh, now I understand why everything in Reykjavik looks like this, because it's exactly what it looks like out in nature. And I was like, this is just kind of cool. And like, we would, like Thomas was saying, we would just drive. And I think one of my favorite things, we'd be driving and everyone's exhausted from walking, and you would look to the left and there was like baby lambs, or there's baby sheep. And then you look to your right and there's horses in the water and the beaches. And then you look back to your left and there's now a waterfall. And so I feel like everywhere, like just driving, like you can't get that anywhere here. You just drive and you waterfall. And it was just, I feel like that was my kind of surreal moment of like, this is kind of crazy. I'm sitting in a bus getting like a tour people would pay for, but
Yeah.
like I'm just sitting here. So
Yeah,
Did any of you have any?
what's that?
Go ahead, Nate.
As we tried to interwork because we were based out of Reykjavik for the entire trip, but we tried to rotate one day where we would go out into the country to view the nature and experience that with staying in the city and experiencing what Reykjavik had to offer. So I think it was a good balance of experiencing the city with the nature, and I think that kind of helped, with the longevity of the trip too. Because when we went out, like we were out for about 12 straight hours. Like we would drive to a place, and then we're getting out and experiencing it, then we're getting back on the bus and drive a little bit farther. And like each spot was just more incredible than the next. But they were long days, so it kind of helped to kind of stack an out of the city day with an in the city day. And we did try to provide some free time. And as much as I love to structure trips and things like that, I understood that the benefit of having some free time. Because honestly, and Bailey Thomas may talk more into this, I think the unstructured time can often turn into maybe some even the most memorable times too, when it's more of an informal getting together. You're randomly walking the streets and walk into a shop that's just like the coolest shop you've ever seen, or you kind of have those more informal experiences. So I want to make sure those could happen organically on a trip like this. I think a lot of those happen within those city days.
Did any of the three of you have any interactions with, not with Vanderbilt alumni that you're into, but just residents of Iceland that were curious about who are these athletes? What is Vanderbilt? Did they ask you any questions? I know college sports is very different in other parts of the world. What were interactions with the people like over there?
I know I had one at the soccer match. It was these kids working the booth. It was I think they were part of the same league, but for the boys, and they were in there working the booth, and they saw, I think it was either mine or Brian's hat, and when we were up there ordering, and then we were standing right outside of the concessions, and they called us over, and then they kept asking us if we're in the college football game, and we were shocked because we didn't even know that they knew we were football players, or that I didn't even know that they knew the college football game. So it definitely threw me off, and it was very exciting actually.
Yeah, they were talking about like the EA Sports college football video game.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I wouldn't have imagined that they would play that there. That's cool. How about you, Bailey? Any interactions with people that stand out?
I think it was just more like people would ask us why we were traveling, and they'd be like, you can tell you guys are athletes. We got a lot of like, what sports do you guys play? And so I think it's, it's a sport of 8 athletes. You walk around, you can kind of just tell that there's a presence of athletes. Yeah. But I think it was just kind of, a lot of people were like interested in like how our school gives us this opportunity, and like kind of like how we were even able to be there. They were like, oh, you're competing. We're like, no, like we're just like kind of here immersing ourselves in this like other culture while like being with other athletes. And I think that was something that like we had a lot of questions about, and a lot of looks of like, I think there was a lot of weird side glances when we were walking down the roads. I think a lot of people were like, who are these group of 8 athletes walking down the road?
Yeah, I know when I travel, one of the obviously the trip itself usually is pretty awesome, but I come back with like a different perspective on my own life back home, like motivated to do certain things, or just a fresh perspective on not taking certain things for granted or wanting to change things in a certain way. Like Bailey, did you come back with any sort of change of mindset or perspective or priorities?
I think it was kind of cool just to like compare. I guess I've never really seen I've only been out of the country one other time into a small island. And so I'd never kind of seen life outside of the US. And I think that maybe not like a big life lesson, but like I was just kind of like really intrigued to see how their culture was, and how like they were very slow, like there's no crime, like it's very relaxed. Like we were in Reykjavik, we were based out of Reykjavik, and I mean 2/3 of their country's population lives in the greater Reykjavik area or something like that, something upwards of 60 something percent. And we were walking around and there was like nobody. Like it was such a different culture, like to kind of put myself into. I was like, Nashville's 2 times the size of Iceland. It's, so different. And I think that kind of made me like sit there and be like, I like to see how their country was working and kind of be like, like America's different. So I think that was kind of maybe something I brought back, was just like a different perspective of how fast paced we are here, and like maybe slow down and just like, because like when we were there, for like example, me and Madeline, one of our roommates, she's also on the swim team, we went and we would visit a Greek donut shop. We went there like 3 or 4 times the whole week, and we became like friends with the owner. We'd walk down the street and he'd be like, "Hey girls," and be like, "Hey," like he's like, he was sad to see us leave. Just like small things like that. Like I don't know how many people in Nashville would slow down and talk. And he like explained his whole history to us and was just, kind of super welcoming. And I think that kind of gave me this perspective of like, wow, like I'm grateful I was able to experience that and kind of change my perspective on living here.
Yeah. So you went to Iceland to make friends with the owner of a Greek donut shop? That's a pretty cool story. All right. Thomas, how about you? Did you come back with any sort of change of perspective on your life? Something that meant a lot to you there that you carried back with you?
Definitely. Try to basically piggybacking off what Bailey said. I had never been out of the country, and I had never really desired to be out of the country, but I was always open to the opportunity. And of course, you hear in history, the history books, and from other people's experiences or on the news, what it's like in other countries. But going from American culture to the Icelandic culture is extremely different. It's almost like two different worlds. Like the people there, of course, are different, but just how they treat each other, and like they're very big on like personal space and other things like that. Just all around respect for each other. And yeah, like she said, people would just stop and talk to you if they had a genuine question. They would stop you and ask you, or they would sit there and stare. But like Brian had, his foot was broken, so he was on a scooter, and they had never seen that before. So we were getting a lot of stares, and a lot of people were asking us like what it is, because apparently whenever they get hurt or something like that, they just stay at home. They don't go out. So
I
it was a
see.
very, very big culture shock, and it definitely opened my eyes to the broader nation outside of the United States, and how different lives can be on a day to day basis, especially when it comes to like just going to work or something like that. Like you see a lot of people walking around with like headphones in, just staring down with like no care in the world. Which of course you see that here, but at the same time, those people that be looking down at their phone, you see them constantly looking up, being aware of their surroundings, and you didn't really see that there. It was more like people in their own world, just enjoying themselves.
You mentioned prior to the trip, you didn't necessarily have a desire to visit other countries. Has that changed now that you've been on this trip? And have you talked to some of your friends or teammates about wanting to travel?
100%. I'll tell them as anytime it comes up. I'll tell them if they get a chance with Vanderbilt to take it, no matter when it is, if they have the opportunity to 100% go, especially if it's out of the country, because it's the school's paying for it, and you might as well do it, and it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Nate, from your standpoint in the area of athletics that you're in, is the fact that Vanderbilt provides this opportunity for student athletes unique in any way? Is it something that you see across the country, like everybody's doing it? And just as we wrap this up, like what other types of opportunities might there be in the future? Is this something that will continue, or maybe you're already planning for next year?
Yeah, I think this is a unique area. I don't think every school invests in student athletes in this type of way across the country. I do think you see sports teams taking trips like this, more of a competitive level and whatnot. But I think this is definitely a unique experience that my goal is to continue, and I'm already starting to think about what this could look like next year, and gotten just some feedback from the student athletes that went this year. They kind of grow, because especially in this day and age of college athletics, I think the student athlete experience can get pushed to the wayside. I think one thing we do at Vanderbilt is make sure that's still an emphasis, and I think trips like this show that, and just show the emphasis that we're cheering. We want to make sure student athletes are successful in their competition fields. And obviously, I oversee our academic support resources here, so we want to make sure student athletes are doing well in the classroom and reaching their potential academically. But I think experiences like this show that that we are invested in the full holistic development of student athletes. I think trips like this really put you're kind of and you're outside of your comfort zone in a lot of ways. And I think outside your comfort zone in a good way with other people that are still feeling the same thing. So you kind of have that unique bond when you are, when you're experiencing these things. And I think it creates, what I call it kind of memory dividends. So like, these are things that you're going to be thinking about for the rest of your life and telling these stories to the student athletes that went and your family and your friends, and those stories will continue to grow. It's one of those things that you're not going to forget. And I think those are important, and that's why travel is important to me, and why I try to incorporate it as much as I can in my life, because those things and the memories continue to grow and get more exciting as the years go on.
That's awesome. Well, Nate, Thomas, Bailey, thank you so much for joining the show. I know you sounds like you had an amazing time. I wish you more experiences like this in the future, and did an incredible job representing not only yourselves but Vanderbilt, in other parts of the world. That's pretty special. So thanks again.